Good evening, guys. In the last session, we had discussion related to how to implement our first project, and we had discussion on our second project. So in the second project also, we have a page which is used to insert the record into table, and once the records are inserted to table, we need to retrieve the records and we need to display. When we are displaying the records, I want to apply some filter. Based on the filter, I want to display the data. I may filter by using department or by using gender or by using experience. Without selecting anything, if I click on search button, then we should be able to get all the records from the table. This is not a new requirement. We already implemented that in the JDBC. At that time, we have taken the data from the keyboard. Now we are taking the data from web page. First of all, what are the classes that we need to create? What are the tables that we need to create for this? So first one, I'm going to create a table with a name called EMP details. This is my table, EMP details, which contains employee ID, integer, auto increment. I want to increment that primary key value, employee ID, and the next one, we are having name, email, gender. Let me go here, employee underscore name, which is having varchar, employee gender, varchar, employee gender, name, email, gender. So email is also varchar type, EMP email, and EMP gender varchar is available. Okay. Employee department and employee experience, EMP underscore department, that is also a varchar, EMP experience, so that is a integer. So this is my employee table to store our form data. Name, email, gender, department, experience coming from the form. Name, email, gender, department, experience. To store that data, I'm taking these columns. And for every record, we need to maintain a primary key. For that primary key, we are writing employee ID, integer with auto increment. So what is the meaning of auto increment? What is the meaning of auto increment, guys? Okay, I want to increment the primary key value. I want to increment that primary key value. We no need to insert the data for that primary key. It will be generated. Primary key of employee underscore ID. So this is my script to create the database table required for our application. Create a table, employee details, employee ID, integer data type, auto increment. Employee name, varchar data type, email, varchar, gender, varchar, department, varchar, experience, integer, primary key, employee ID. Let me create this table in the database first. Now, employee details table, employee varchar, some size we need to give for the varchar. Let me give it as some 100. Varchar of 100, varchar of 100, varchar of 100, varchar of 100. Okay, integer primary key value. Perfect. Now create a table details. Execute this query. Yes, perfect. We are able to create employee details table. Select star from EMP underscore details. EMP underscore details. Execute this query. ID, name, email, gender, department, experience. There is no data in the table, just one empty table got created. Now, with this table, we are able to identify what is our requirement. This is my table script to create that. Okay. After that, we need to create first create DB table. We have created that. Create DB table to store our data. Second one, create DB config properties file. we need to maintain database properties inside dot properties file. Create dbconfig properties file. And the third one, create connection factory class to get logical connection. We have stopped writing driver manager.get connection. Why we are not writing driver manager.get connection? It will give you physical connection. It is not recommended to get the physical connections from the database. We have stopped that driver manager.get connection. We are going for connection factory class to get logical connection. Once we get this connection, we need to create a DAO class. Before creating a DAO class, I'm going to create employee DTO class to represent employee data. I need to create employee DTO class to represent employee data. Perfect. Then next one, I'm going to write here, create DAO class, which is employee DAO class to perform DB operations. If you want to communicate with the database, we need to write that logic in separate class that is called as my employee DAO. How many DAO classes are required now? How many DAO classes are required? One DAO class required. Why only one DAO? There is only one table. That's why I will take only one DAO. If you have three tables, then three DAO classes we are going to take. Create employee DAO class to perform DB operations. Then create servlets. Create servlet class to handle request and response. How many servlet classes are required? How many servlets are required? Two servlets are required. Can I do with one servlet also? We can do that with the one servlet also. One is employee insert servlet. Another one is employee retrieval servlet. Either you can create one servlet with do get and do post method, or you can create two servlets. One is for inserting the data. Another one is for retrieving the data. Generally, in the projects, per screen, one servlet will be available. But here we are having two screens. So we are going to create two servlet classes here. Create servlet classes to handle request and response. Then next one, create JSP pages to handle presentation logic. Create JSP pages to handle presentation logic. Now, employee DAO only one. Coming to servlet, here I'm going to create EMP insert servlet, EMP insert servlet.java, and I'm taking EMP retrieve servlet.java. Naming convention is very important. By looking at the class name, we should understand what that class is going to do. EMP insert servlet.java, EMP retrieve servlet.java. Create the JSP pages. Here I'm taking one page with a name called index.jsp. Another page is emps.jsp. Anything is fine, right? Show emps.jsp or view emps.jsp. You can write any name for that. Index.jsp, which represents welcome page, which will contain the form to save our employee. Emps.jsp, which will contain the logic to display employees in the table along with the search criteria. I'm going to search the employees based on my requirement. Good. So these are the things that we need to follow, guys. This is my table structure. So this is table structure. Create a table to store our data. Create config properties in a file. Create connection factory. Create a DTO class. Create a DAO class. Create servlet classes. Employee insert servlet. Employee retrieve servlet. Create JSP pages to handle presentation logic. Here I missed one important point. Create project and add the dependencies. Yeah, create dynamic web project and add required libraries. What are the libraries we need, guys? One is servlet API.jar, JSTL API.jar, JSTL.jar, Hikari.jar, and MySQL connector jar, MySQL connector, MySQL connector dot Java. I mean, sorry, jar. Sorry, MySQL connector dot jar file, and the next one slf4j dot jar. So like this, we are going to create a DB table to store our data, create a dynamic web project, and add the required libraries in lib folder. I'm not adding to build path, guys. I'm adding the jar files to lib folder. What is the reason to add the jars in the lib folder? Libraries. Tomorrow, I want to run my project in another laptop. Build path, if you set, that is referring to the jars available in your system. Tomorrow, when I download the project, when I want to run it in my system, the jars will not be available in my build path. So that's why we are keeping the jars in the lib folder, so that that project we can run in any computer. If you add to the build path, the jars are pointing to your system location. But in my system, the jars may be in the different directory. So that is the reason I'm not adding the jars to build path. I'm adding the jar files to lib folder. These jar files are required. Configuration file, connection factory class, DTO class, DAO class, servlet classes, and JSP files we are going to create to handle our requirement. Now let's get started. Let me go to my IDE. I'm creating employee web app, dynamic web application, EMP web application. Now dynamic web module 3.0. Next, generate web.xml. Click on finish. Employee web application got created. Copy the jar files. Here I am having all the jars: Hikari CP, JSTL, MySQL, Servlet, SLF4j. Take the jars, add to the project lib folder, main, web app, webinf, and lib folder. After adding, just refresh. Good. Fine. Next one, guys. I need properties file. I'm going to copy from the previous project. I don't want to write it once again. Can I copy that connection factory also? Do we need to write again? No, we already developed that for several times. I'm reusing. I'm using this class, which is connection factory.java. Path of the file might change. So I'm going to change this location. I want to refer this from EMP web app. EMP web application db.properties. Perfect. With this, our project is ready. Table is created. Project is created. Jars are ready. Config properties are ready. Connection factory is also ready. What is the next step? Create DTO class to represent employee data. What is the employee data? Name available, email, gender, department, experience. For that, I'm going to create one DTO class. I will create that in a separate package, employee DTO. Employee DTO, keep that inside DTO package. Perfect. Let me write the variables: private, integer. You can use either primitive types or you can use wrapper classes also. Using the wrapper classes is recommended approach. Integer, employee ID, string, employee name, private, string, employee gender, private, string, employee department, and private, string, employee email, private int experience, private integer EMP experience. Like this, I'm able to represent all the employee data in one class. This class is called as DTO. Let us write setters and getters for this class. Setter methods and getter methods are used to set the data and get the data. One class will set the data to the object, will give the object to another class. Another class will call the getter methods to get the data from the object. Basically, servlet will take the form data, will set it to DTO object. Servlet will give the DTO object to DAO method. DAO will get the data and will insert the record into table. So with this, my DTO class is ready. What all the fields available in my page? With those fields, I have created my DTO class. Every variable is representing one field in the form. name, email, gender, department, experience. ID not available, but I'm taking ID here, which will represent primary key of the table, which will be auto generated in the table with the help of auto increment. DTO is ready. Connection factory is ready. Next one, DAO class. This is very important to understand how to create our DAO class now. So I'm creating it in a package in.ashokit.dao. Let me create employee DAO. What is the purpose of DAO, guys? DAO is responsible to communicate with the database. Observe how many times we need to communicate with database in our application. How many times we need to communicate with the database in our application? 1 times or 2 times? 2 times. One is at the time of submit button. Another one is at the time of retrieval. Okay. Insert operation and search operation. 2 times I want to communicate with the database. So we need to write 2 methods in our DAO class. What are the 2 methods we need to write in the DAO? Observe. First one is, this method is used to this operation submit button. User can click on submit. When user click on submit, I want to insert the data. When user click on submit, I want to insert the data. Now, user will click submit button in the form, guys. Observe. User will click the submit button in the form. From the form, request will go to servlet. From the servlet, we need to call the DAO. From the DAO, it should go to database. We are developing our application in the layered architecture fashion. This is my DAO class. Assume that. Employee DAO. And this is servlet. Employee insert servlet. Okay. This is employee insert servlet. This is save form. Employee form. Employee form is available. Here I'm going to write do post method. Here I'm writing do post method. Here I want to write save method. Okay. So here, if you observe, form will be submitted. It will go to servlet. Servlet should call the DAO. DAO should call the database. Right. User entering the data in the form. How the form data will go to servlet? Servlet will capture by using request.get parameter. How servlet will send the form data to the DAO? That's where DTO object comes into picture. What is the purpose of the DTO? To send the data or to transfer the data from the servlet to DAO. Okay. We need to write one method in the DAO to take the DTO object and insert that object data into database table. All right. First, let us write one query: private static final string insert. Insert. Okay. So my query is insert into emp detail. Am I going to insert all the values or only non-primary keys? Only non-primary keys. If you observe in our table, employee ID having auto increment. I don't need to insert that. I need to insert only name, insert into details, employee name, comma, employee email, comma, employee gender, department, experience. Employee gender, employee department, comma, employee experience. Okay. Only these values I need to insert. How many values available? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Name, email, gender, department, experience. 5 values are available. I will be taking 5 positional parameters. I'm taking 5 positional parameters. Perfect. Insert query. Observe carefully. Insert into employee details. Insert into employee details. Name, email, gender. Why I am not writing directly values? Why I am not writing direct values? Whenever you write insert into detail values, it will start from ID onward. It will think that first one is ID, but first one is ID or first one is a name. First one is a name. That's why I'm telling which columns data I am trying to insert, that I am specifying in the insert query. Okay, my insert query is ready. Similarly, I want to write a select query. Select query is a static query or it is a dynamic query? Static. See the requirement. My select query is a dynamic query. So I'm not going to write at the class level. First, I'm writing a method. Public boolean save employee. Employee DTO object I'm going to take as a parameter. Employee DTO object I'm taking as a parameter. Why I am taking object as a parameter? I need data of the employee to insert that. So data is entering in the form. Form data will come to servlet. Servlet will send the data to DAO in the form of object. That object I'm taking as a method parameter. Now let me write try catch blocks here to handle that exception. Try catch exception e dot print stack trace. Perfect. So now I want to get the connection factory is available. Connection factory dot get connection. It will give me connection object. Okay. Connection con is equal to connection factory dot get connection. Then con dot create statement or prepare statement. Prepare statement because dynamic values are available. I'm passing my insert query. Right. It will give me prepared statement object. Prepared statement PSTMT is equal to con dot prepare statement import the package. Okay. Next one. I need to set the data for prepared statement before executing my query. PSTMT dot set string of 1 comma empdto dot get emp name. empdto dot get emp name. Now PSTMT dot set string of 2 empdto dot get emp email. Similarly, remaining values also I need to set a string of 3 empdto dot gender, empdto dot get emp gender. Next one is the department, that is also same PSTMT dot set a string of 4 empdto dot get emp department. Next one is experience, it is an integer. PSTMT dot set int of 5, that is empdto dot get experience, get emp experience. My query is having 5 positional parameters, so I'm setting the values for those 5 based on the indexes. After setting the value for positional parameter, I need to call execute update, which will return me int count, value. Okay. So here I can take it int count is equal to 0. Int count is equal to 0. I'm taking that variable here. Finally, here I can return count greater than 0. Count greater than 0. If count is greater than 0, it will return true value. Otherwise, it will return false value. Are you guys clear with this method? Yeah. Anybody not able to understand this method? I'm just writing one method which will take DTO object as a parameter, which will insert the record into database table. Then it will return true or false value. If it is true, my understanding is record inserted. If it is false, my understanding is record not inserted. Are you clear with this? Fine. Can I create one servlet to insert this functionality? Are you clear, guys? क्या है? क्या doubt है? I'm writing one method. That method is taking DTO object as a parameter. I'm getting the connection, creating a prepared statement, inserting the record into database table. For this, I'm going to create one servlet. New class package in dot Ashok ID dot servlet emp insert servlet. Emp insert servlet class I'm writing here extends the properties from HTTP servlet. Extend the properties from HTTP servlet. Represent this. What is that? @web servlet. Annotation I'm giving as insert. Annotation I'm giving as a insert. That means it is used to insert the employee. Do get method or do post method? Do get or do post? Do post. Why do post? We are getting the form data. It should not come in the URL. It has to come in the body. For that, I need to override do post method. Do post method taking request and response object as parameter. All right. Now here, I'm going to capture the data from the form. Do you know how to capture the data? Request dot get parameter of, let me take it as a name kind of thing. Request dot get parameter of name. Okay. What happened, man? Why my shortcuts are not working? Is it in the zoom mode? This is the problem. All right. Request dot get parameter. I got the variable name. Similar to this, I need to get email, gender, department, experience. Okay. Email. Request dot get parameter of email. I'm taking the email. Then next one is gender. Request dot get parameter of gender. Next one is department. Yep. Request dot get parameter of department. Experience. Everything will come in the form of string. We need to convert that into required data type. Now, experience is a number, but we are getting as a string. Remember, when we are transferring the data from front end to back end, everything will go as a string only. At the back end, we need to convert that data into required data type format. Now, I want to store this data into my DTO object. Why I should store into DTO object? To transfer that data to DAO. My DAO expecting object or my DAO expecting parameter separately? It is expecting object as a parameter. It is not expecting name, gender, department separately. It is expecting the data in the form of object. So now my servlet is responsible to represent this data in the object and pass that object as a parameter to DAO. So let me create emp DTO object. DTO is equal to new emp DTO dot set department, DTO dot set emp email, and DTO dot set emp name, and DTO dot set gender, DTO dot set emp experience. Experience is available as a string, but I want that as a integer. How to convert string to integer? Integer dot parseInt of experience. Okay, I'm able to represent the data in the form of DTO object format. Got it? Now let us call our DAO method. emp DAO is equal to new emp DAO dot save emp. I am representing this. Here I'm getting is saved. What is the meaning of is saved? It is true or false. We are representing this. Here what I am doing? Capture form data. I'm capturing form data. Next point, representing form data in object format. Representing form data in object format. Here, saving form data using DAO method. So total 3 things I have done now. First one is I'm capturing the data from the form by using request.getParameter. Everybody rotating head like this, but you are not able to do it. That is the problem. When I am writing the code, people are saying that yes, understanding, but why are you not able to do it? Am I teaching anything new? Already we have discussed it. How to capture form data, how to represent in the form of object, how to call the DAO method, same thing. I'm capturing the form data by using request.get parameter. I'm representing the form data in the form of DTO object. By using that DTO object, I'm calling my DAO method. DAO is giving me true or false. True means record inserted, false means record not inserted. Okay. If is saved, that means it is true, record is inserted. Else, that means record is not inserted. If record is inserted, I want to send a success message. Okay guys, now I want to take a message variable. String message is equal to null value, then message is equal to saved successfully. Else message is equal to failed to save. Now I got the message. Okay, I want to send this message directly to the browser, or I want to send the message to the JSP. Am I going to display the direct message, or I want to display message on the JSP page? I want to display this message on the JSP page. How to transfer the data from servlet to JSP? How to transfer now? I have a servlet. I am capturing the data. I'm inserting the data in the table. I want to display success message on the same page. If I want to display success message on the same page, I need to send the message from my servlet to JSP. Do you know how to send the data from servlet to JSP? How to send the data from servlet to JSP? Send data, send message to JSP page. Send message to JSP page. Request dot set attribute.